The unexpected guardian. The battle for Kepler Station had raged for 17 hours without pause. Across the void of space, the sleek crystalline ships of the Soviet Alliance exchanged devastating energy barrages with the biomechanical high ships of the Crax Imperium. Caught between these two ancient powers, the civilian station's shields flickered weakly, on the verge of collapse. High Admiral Vexler of the Soviet fleet stood rigid on his command deck, his forearms gripping different consoles as tactical displays showed their deteriorating position. His silver skin reflected the crimson emergency lighting as he barked orders to his crew. Divert power to forward shields. The refugees must be evacuated before the station falls. The Soviet were losing. They had arrived to protect Kepler Station, a neutral trading hub and home to 17 different species, but the Crax Imperium had brought 3 dreadnoughts, far more firepower than intelligence had predicted. Aboard the Crax flagship Eternal Hunger, Commander Jarvak watched with cold satisfaction. His chitinous exoskeleton clicked as he moved across the pulsating, organic bridge of his vessel. The Soviet defense crumbles, he chittered to his subordinates. Once we control this sector, our expansion into the Orion Arm will continue unimpeded. The station's commander, a Tauran named Joril, desperately transmitted across all frequencies. This is Kepler Station to all nearby vessels. We have 20,000 civilians aboard. Please assist. We cannot withstand another bombardment. Neither the Soviet nor the Crax responded. This war had been waged for centuries. Civilian casualties were merely unfortunate statistics in their grand strategies. Then something impossible happened. At the edge of the battlefield, space itself seemed to shiver. Sensors on both fleets registered an anomaly, a distortion unlike any known warp signature or jump technology. A vessel emerged, its appearance causing immediate confusion among the warring fleets. It was unlike any ship ever recorded in galactic databases. Matte black, with clean lines and an aerodynamic design that seemed almost primitive compared to the crystalline geometries of the Soviet or the pulsing organic structures of the Crax. Yet it moved with uncanny precision, accelerating toward the battlefield at speeds that defied conventional physics. Unknown vessel detected, reported the Soviet sensor officer, his voice tinged with confusion. Configuration matches no known species in our records. High Admiral Vexler frowned. Hail them. Demand identification. But before any communication could be established, the mysterious vessel broadcast across all frequencies, in perfect galactic standard. This is the Earth vessel UESC Tempest. We have detected civilians in danger. All hostile ships withdraw from Kepler Station immediately or face consequences. The bridge of the Soviet flagship fell silent. Earth? Humans? They were a minor species, barely 50 years into their interstellar development. By all accounts, humans possessed only rudimentary warp technology, confined to their solar system and a handful of nearby colonies. They had no military presence beyond their borders, no standing in galactic politics. Commander Jarvak of the Crax laughed, a harsh clicking sound that echoed through his organic command center. A human vessel dares to threaten the Crax Imperium. This is amusing. Target their ship and destroy it. Let it serve as an example of what happens to primitive species who interfere in matters beyond their understanding. 2 Crax battle cruisers peeled away from the main fleet, their weapon systems powering up as they locked onto the Tempest. Green energy built up along their hulls as they prepared to fire devastating plasma lances, weapons capable of vaporizing small moons. What happened next would forever change galactic warfare. The Tempest didn't evade. It accelerated directly toward the Crax cruisers, just as they fired their plasma lances, energy beams that no known shield could fully withstand. The human vessel seemed to flicker. Across the galaxy, leaders of 100 different species watched in stunned silence as footage of the confrontation was transmitted through quantum relays. In the Grand Council chamber of the Soviet Alliance, the ruling triumvirate sat in shocked silence. 13 vessels, First Triumvir, Kelna whispered, each with technology beyond our understanding. And who knows how many more they have hidden. Second Triumvir Vortel leaned forward. We must establish diplomatic relations immediately. These humans, they could change everything. Third Triumvir Jaxar, always the most warlike of the three, shook his head. They could destroy everything. No single species should possess such power. As debates raged across the galaxy, Captain Rice sent a message to Earth Command. Phase 2 complete. Galactic powers have witnessed our defensive capabilities, awaiting authorization for Phase 3. The response came swiftly. Phase 3 authorized. Proceed to the Galactic Nexus. It's time for humanity to take its seat at the table. In her private quarters later that cycle, Reyes gazed out at the stars. Humanity had hidden its true technological advancement for nearly 50 years, developing in secret while the great powers of the galaxy ignored the seemingly primitive species from Sol. They had watched and learned as other civilizations tore each other apart in endless wars. Now the mask had been dropped. Humanity had revealed a fraction of its capabilities, enough to establish itself as a force to be reckoned with, but not enough to show their full hand. As the Tempest prepared to depart Kepler Station, heading for the Galactic Nexus, where representatives of all major species gathered, Reyes knew that the hardest part was yet to come. It was one thing to demonstrate power, it was another entirely to use that power wisely. The galaxy was about to change forever, and humanity would lead the way. Part 3. The New Equilibrium. The Galactic Nexus, a massive space station at the junction of 7 major trade routes, had never seen such activity. Representatives from 37 species had arrived in record time, their vessels crowding the normally orderly docking arrays. Inside the Grand Concourse, the air hummed with tension as delegates whispered among themselves, casting nervous glances toward the entrance. They were waiting for the humans. Archdiplomat Trelvox of the Sovan Alliance adjusted his ceremonial robe, his silver skin shimmering under the ambient lighting. "This is unprecedented," he murmured to his aide. "Never has a species gone from observer status to full council consideration in a single cycle. Never has a species concealed such technology," his aide replied quietly. At the far end of the chamber, the delegation from the Crax Imperium stood isolated, their chitinous exoskeletons clicking nervously. The humiliation of their defeat had spread throughout the galaxy, diminishing their fearsome reputation. Supreme Hive Commander Zex Thrax had been replaced by his subordinate, Vrexkor, who now represented the Imperium with considerably less bluster than his predecessor. The massive doors at the entrance to the Grand Concourse slid open. A hush fell over the assembled delegates as Captain Alina Reyes entered, flanked by Commander Tanaka and a small delegation of human officers. Their uniforms were simple by galactic standards, dark blue with minimal ornamentation, only rank insignia visible on their collars. The Council Elder, a venerable Drith whose species had been among the first to achieve interstellar travel, rose from the central platform. "Captain Alina Reyes of Earth," the Elder's voice resonated through the chamber. "You come before the Galactic Council under unusual circumstances." Reyes stepped forward, her posture straight but not rigid, confident without arrogance. "We thank the Council for this opportunity to address the gathered representatives of galactic civilization. Before we proceed," the Elder continued, "this Council demands answers. For decades, humanity has maintained the pretense of being a developing species with limited technological capabilities. Yet now you reveal vessels and weapons technologies that surpass even the most advanced civilizations. How do you explain this deception?" Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. This was the question on everyone's mind. Reyes nodded, acknowledging the validity of the inquiry. 63 years ago, when humanity first developed faster-than-light travel and encountered the wider galactic community, we made a collective decision. We would observe before participating. She activated a holographic display showing the galaxy's major powers and the conflicts between them. What we observed was troubling. Endless wars over resources that could have been shared. Conquest valued over cooperation. civilian populations treated as acceptable collateral damage. We decided then that when humanity finally took its place among. Vexlor nodded slowly. Tell them this. Today we witnessed the arrival of humanity on the galactic stage, and nothing will ever be the same. Aboard the Tempest, Captain Alina Reyes watched as her crew coordinated rescue efforts. Her dark hair was pulled back in a regulation bun, her uniform simple and functional compared to the ornate garments of other spacefaring species. Captain, we're receiving thousands of communications from across the galaxy, reported her communications officer. Everyone wants to know who we are and what we want. Reyes smiled slightly. Tell them humanity comes in peace, but we will not tolerate threats to innocent lives. The era of unchecked galactic warfare ends today. As the Tempest hovered protectively over Kepler Station, news of its impossible capabilities spread across the stars like wildfire. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, not with diplomacy or trade agreements, but with a demonstration of power that defied understanding. The message was clear. The humans were here, and they were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen before. Revelations and defiance. The news of humanity's intervention at Kepler Station spread across the galaxy at superluminal speeds, transmitted through quantum communication relays, and carried by desperate messengers eager to share what they had witnessed. Within 24 hours, every major power in the Orion Arm knew of the UESC Tempest and its seemingly impossible technology. In the Grand Council chamber of the Sovan Alliance, High Admiral Vexlor stood before the ruling triumvirate, his silver skin dulled with exhaustion after his return from the battle. I assure you, esteemed leaders, the footage is unaltered, he insisted, gesturing to the holographic display showing the Tempest's maneuvers. The human vessel displayed technology that defies our understanding of physics. First Triumvir Kelma leaned forward, her crystalline eyes narrowing. How is this possible? Our intelligence reports indicated the humans were still struggling with basic antimatter containment. Their colonies barely extend beyond their home system. It appears, Vexlor replied carefully, that humanity has been concealing its true capabilities. Across the galaxy, in the Chitinist Hive Palace of the Crax Imperium, similar discussions were taking place, but with one significant difference. The Crax did not debate. They planned for war. Supreme Hive Commander Zextrax, his massive form dwarfing the lesser Crax around him, clicked his mandibles in rage as he reviewed the battle footage. This human deception cannot stand. They have hidden among us, pretending to be weak, all while developing weapons that could threaten our supremacy. They must be eliminated before they reveal more of their arsenal. Meanwhile, aboard the Tempest, Captain Alina Reyes sat in her ready room, reviewing the flood of diplomatic communications pouring in from across the galaxy. Some were curious, others threatening, but all demanded the same thing: explanations. A soft chime announced the arrival of her first officer, Commander Akira Tanaka. The repairs to Kepler Station are nearly complete, Captain, he reported. Their shield generators are now operating at 89% efficiency, better than before the attack. Reyes nodded, her dark eyes still focused on the screen before her. And the diplomatic situation? Tanaka sighed. Deteriorating rapidly. The Crax have officially declared humanity a threat to galactic security. They're calling for our immediate withdrawal from Kepler. The Sovan are more measured, but they're mobilizing their fleets, and 17 other species have demanded immediate technological exchange or threatened sanctions. As expected, Reyes said, finally looking up. And Earth Command. They've approved Phase 2. Tanaka handed her a secure data crystal. The other ships are standing by at their designated coordinates. They await your signal. Reyes inserted the crystal into her console, reviewing the encrypted orders within. After a moment, she nodded and returned it to Tanaka. It's time the galaxy understood who we really are. 12 hours later, a Crax battle fleet entered the Kepler system. 27 warships, including their most advanced dreadnought, the World Ender, took up attack positions around the station. The Tempest remained in position, apparently unconcerned by the overwhelming force arrayed against it. From the World Ender, a transmission was broadcast. Human vessel. This is Supreme Hive Commander Zexthrax of the Krax Imperium. Your interference in galactic affairs will not be tolerated. Surrender your vessel and its technologies immediately, or we will destroy both you and the station you protect. Inside the Tempest's command center, a surprisingly minimalist space compared to the ornate bridges of most galactic powers, Captain Rice stood calmly as her crew prepared for what was to come. "Open a channel," she ordered. On the main view screen, the chidinous face of Zexthrax appeared, his compound eyes gleaming with malice. "Commander Zexthrax," Rice began, her voice steady. "I am Captain Elena Rice of Earth. Let me be clear. We have no interest in your galactic politics or territorial disputes. Our only concern is the protection of innocent lives." "Your concerns are irrelevant," clicked Zexthrax. "You will surrender your vessel and its technologies, or we will demonstrate the true might of the Krax Imperium." Rice smiled slightly. "I was hoping you'd say that." She nodded to her communications officer, who sent a brief encoded signal. "Commander, before you make a grave mistake, there's something you should know about humanity." Zexthrax's mandibles clicked impatiently. "And what would that be, human? We never travel alone." At that precise moment, space around the Krax fleet rippled, not in one place, but in 12 different locations simultaneously. The same spatial distortion that had heralded the Tempest's arrival now manifested around the Krax fleet. From these distortions emerged 12 more human vessels, each identical to the Tempest in design, each moving with the same impossible precision. On the bridge of the World Ender, alarms shrieked as sensor officers reported the impossible. 13 human warships. Zexthrax chittered in disbelief. Impossible. Their fleet registry contains only transport vessels and mining ships. As I said, Rice continued calmly, "We've been concealing our true capabilities. For good reason, it seems." The 13 human vessels moved in perfect synchronization, forming a spherical formation around the Krax fleet. There was no communication between them, no detectable command signals. They moved as if guided by a single mind. "This is your only warning," Rice continued. "Withdraw from Kepler Station, return to your territory, and we will consider this matter closed. Continue your aggression, and we will respond accordingly." Zexthrax's compound eyes flared with rage. "The Krax Imperium does not yield to threats. All vessels, open fire." The Krax fleet unleashed their weapons simultaneously. Plasma lances, quantum disruptors, and gravitic crushers, enough firepower to shatter a small moon. Their target, the Tempest. What happened next stunned even the most experienced tactical officers in the Krax fleet. Instead of evading or raising shields, all 13 human vessels extended a hand-like energy pattern. As the devastating Krax weapons reached this barrier, something impossible happened. The energy was not blocked or absorbed. It simply ceased to exist. "What is this?" demanded Zexthrax, his chitinous plates clicking rapidly in agitation. On her bridge, Captain Rice remained standing, hands clasped behind her back. "Commander Tanaka, please educate our friends about dimensional physics." Her first officer nodded. Activating dimensional fold. The 13 human vessels began to emit a strange, rippling field. As it expanded, space itself seemed to bend around the Krax fleet. Their weapons fire curved back upon itself, creating loops of energy that dissipated harmlessly into nothingness. "What you're witnessing," Rice explained to the increasingly panicked Zexthrax, "is a localized manipulation of dimensional barriers. Your weapons aren't being blocked. They're being redirected into a pocket dimension where they can harm no one." "Impossible." Zexthrax rage. "No species has mastered dimensional technology." "Until now," Rice replied simply. The dimensional field continued to expand until it completely encased the Krax fleet. Their engines flared as they attempted to escape, but space itself seemed to hold them in place. "Let me be absolutely clear," Rise continued, her voice taking on a harder edge. "Humanity has remained hidden in plain sight for decades, observing your endless wars, your casual disregard for civilian lives, your empire building at the expense of weaker species. We decided long ago that when we finally revealed ourselves to the wider galaxy, it would be on our terms." On the main view screen, Zexthrax's rage had given way to something the cracks rarely displayed: fear. "What do you want?" he demanded, his voice losing some of its earlier authority. "Peace," Rise answered simply. "An end to the senseless conflicts that have ravaged this sector for centuries, beginning with your immediate withdrawal from this system and an end to your attacks on civilian populations." For several long moments, the Supreme Hive Commander said nothing. The silence stretched across space as the 13 human vessels maintained their impossible dimensional field around the trapped Cracks fleet. Finally, with visible reluctance, Zexthrax gave the order: "All vessels, power down weapons. Prepare for withdrawal." As the Cracks fleet began their humiliating retreat, watched closely by the human vessels, news of this second encounter spread even faster than the first. The devastating beams passed through empty space. The Tempest had somehow displaced itself, appearing 50 kilometers to the right of its previous position. No jump drive, no warp signature. It had simply relocated instantaneously. "Impossible," whispered Vexlor. The Tempest responded with a single precise shot. A beam of blue-white energy lanced out from what appeared to be a relatively small forward cannon. It struck the first Cracks cruiser at its junction point between the command module and engine section. Instead of an explosion, there was simply nothing. A perfect spherical void appeared where the beam had struck, expanding to exactly 20 meters in diameter before stabilizing. It had carved a perfect sphere out of the ship's hull, bypassing shields as if they didn't exist. The Cracks vessel listed helplessly, its systems failing as atmosphere vented from the perfectly circular hole. The second cruiser fired again, this time launching a salvo of seeking torpedoes. The Tempest didn't move to evade. Instead, a ripple of energy expanded outward from its hull. When the torpedoes reached this invisible barrier, they simply stopped. Suspended in space, frozen in time, their propulsion still visibly active, but making no forward progress. "What technology is this?" demanded Jarvak, his mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. "No species possesses such capabilities." The human vessel broadcast again, its message calm and measured. "This is your final warning. Withdraw from Kepler Station, or we will demonstrate our capabilities on your dreadnoughts." For the first time in centuries of warfare, Commander Jarvak hesitated. The humans were supposed to be insignificant, their technology barely worthy of notice. Yet here was evidence of something far beyond even the most advanced Cracks or Sovan systems. "All vessels, target the human ship," Jarvak ordered, his pride overcoming his caution. Full barrage. The 3 Cracks dreadnoughts rotated in unison, their massive weapon arrays powering up. The energy readings were off the charts, enough firepower to reduce a small planet to molten slag. High Admiral Vexlor watched in horrified fascination. No single vessel could survive such an assault, regardless of its technology. As the Cracks weapons fired, turning space itself into a corridor of destructive energy, the Tempest performed the impossible again. It didn't evade or raise shields. Instead, the human vessel seemed to rotate slightly, not in three-dimensional space, but somehow elsewhere, as if it had partially stepped into another dimension. The devastating barrage bent around the ship, the laws of physics themselves seeming to warp in its vicinity. Not a single shot connected. "By the ancestors," whispered Vexlor's first officer, "what are we witnessing?" The Tempest's response was surgical and precise. 3 shots, no more, no less. Each one struck a Cracks dreadnought at exactly the same point, creating the same spherical void in each vessel's command center. Suddenly, all 3 dreadnoughts went dark, their organic systems failing simultaneously. They drifted helplessly, no longer a threat to anyone. This is the UESC Tempest to all Cracks vessels. Your command ships have been neutralized. Your options are retreat or annihilation. Choose. The remaining Cracks fleet, witnessing the impossible defeat of their mightiest warships, began to withdraw. Tactical retreats were rare for the Cracks, but what they had witnessed defied all understanding of warfare. As the Cracks fled, the human vessel approached Kepler Station, its weapons now powered down. Kepler Station, this is Captain Elena Reyes of the Earth vessel Tempest. We're dispatching engineering teams to help stabilize your shields and life support systems. Please prepare your medical facilities for our doctors. Jor-El, the station commander, responded with shock evident in his voice. We thank you, Earth vessel. But how? Humans have no presence in this sector. How did you know we were under attack? We've been watching for some time, came the calm reply. Today, that changes. Humanity is now making its presence known to the galaxy. On the Sovan flagship, High Admiral Vexlor sank into his command chair, his forearms limp at his sides. Contact our High Council immediately, he ordered. The balance of power has shifted. Everything we know about warfare and galactic politics must be reconsidered. As engineering shuttles departed from the Tempest, Vexlor studied the human vessel with new eyes. Its design now seemed less primitive and more purposeful, efficient, as if hiding its true capabilities behind a deceptively simple exterior. Admiral, his communications officer interrupted. We're receiving transmissions from across the sector. Word of what happened here is spreading faster than light itself. Every major power is requesting information. The stars, it would be as a force for change, not as another empire builder. The Cracks representative's mandibles clicked in agitation. So you lied. You presented yourselves as weak while developing weapons of mass destruction. Not weapons, Rice corrected calmly. Defenses, everything you've witnessed, from our dimensional displacement technology to our energy redirection fields, was developed with one purpose: to end conflicts without casualties. She gestured to the display, which now showed footage from Kepler Station. Not a single Cracks warrior died in our confrontation. Your ships were disabled, not destroyed. Your crews were incapacitated, not killed. This revelation sent another wave of murmurs through the assembly. In a galaxy accustomed to total warfare, the concept of a bloodless victory was almost incomprehensible. The Sovan representative leaned forward. These technologies you speak of, they defy known physics. The power requirements alone would be considerable, Tanaka interjected, which is why we also developed energy generation methods that don't rely on conventional resources. Another holographic display activated, showing complex equations and schematics. What you're seeing is a simplified explanation of our dimensional tap technology. By accessing the energy differential between dimensional membranes, we generate power without consuming traditional resources. The scientific delegates in the chamber were visibly stunned. Some were already furiously taking notes, while others sat in shocked silence. Which brings us to why we're here, Rice continued. Humanity is ready to share these technologies, under certain conditions. The Council Elder's eyes narrowed. Conditions. Peace, Rice stated simply. An end to the territorial wars that have plagued this sector for centuries. A commitment to resolving disputes through diplomacy rather than destruction. Before the Elder could respond, the chamber erupted in chaos. Some delegates shouted protests, others demands, while a few simply tried to be heard above the din. Silence. The Elder's voice cut through the noise. When order was restored, he addressed Reyes directly. You come before this council, reveal technologies that could shift the balance of power throughout the galaxy, then demand we change policies that have existed for millennia. Yes, Reyes answered without hesitation, because those policies have led to suffering on a scale that humanity finds unacceptable. At that moment, an alarm sounded throughout the station. The security chief, a four-armed Tellarite, rushed to the Elder's side, and whispered urgently in his ear. The elder's expression grew grave. "Captain Rice, it appears your presence here has provoked action. A combined fleet of Cracks, Vorathi, and Centauri warships has just entered the system. They are demanding that you and all human vessels surrender immediately, or they will open fire, not just on your ships, but on the Nexus itself." Rice exchanged a glance with Tanaka, who nodded slightly. "How many ships?" she asked calmly. 117. The security chief replied. To the astonishment of the assembled delegates, Rice smiled. "I suspected something like this might happen. The old powers rarely relinquish control willingly." She tapped her communication device. "Tempest, this is Reyes. Activate Phase 3. Outside the Nexus, in the cold void of space, the approaching armada of warships formed a battle line. Their weapons powered up, targeting arrays locked on both the 13 human vessels and the Nexus itself. From the flagship of the Allied fleet, an ultimatum was broadcast. "Human vessels, this is Grand Admiral Vexthal of the combined fleet. Your technological deception ends now. Surrender your vessels and all technical data, or we will demonstrate what true galactic power looks like." No response came from the human ships. They remained in position, seemingly unconcerned by the overwhelming force arrayed against them. "They ignore us," snarled the Vorathi commander. "Open fire." As the combined fleet unleashed their attack, a wall of destructive energy that would have annihilated small moons, something unprecedented happened. Earth appeared. Not the actual planet, but a massive holographic projection that materialized between the attacking fleet and the Nexus. It showed the blue-green world of humanity's origin, surrounded by what appeared to be thousands of orbital platforms. A new voice broadcast across all frequencies. "This is Admiral Helena Chen of Earth Defense Command. What you are seeing is a real-time quantum transmission from Sol system. Those are not projections. They are Earth's defensive platforms, all 5,000 of them." The hologram shifted, showing close-ups of the platforms, each bristling with the same advanced technology demonstrated by the Tempest. "Additionally," Chen continued, "we have 753 vessels equivalent to the ones you've encountered, stationed throughout human territory and beyond. This has been a limited demonstration of our capabilities and our reach." Inside the Nexus Council chamber, the hologram was also visible. The delegates watched in stunned silence as the true extent of human technological development was revealed. Captain Rice addressed the council once more. "We did not come here to threaten or dominate. We came to change a system that has caused untold suffering. Humanity stands ready to share our advances that could end resource scarcity, eliminate the need for territorial expansion, and create a true peace." She paused, looking at each major delegation in turn. "But make no mistake, we will not allow the continuation of policies that treat civilian lives as expendable. The choice before you is simple: evolution or obsolescence." Outside, the attacking fleet had gone silent, their weapons powered down as they processed the implications of what they were seeing. Finally, the council elder spoke, his voice reflecting the gravity of the moment. "You leave us little choice, Captain Reyes." "On the contrary," she replied, "we offer you the greatest choice your civilizations have faced in millennia: to move beyond the limitations that have defined your societies, to build something better." 3 days later, representatives from all major galactic powers signed the Sol Accords, a comprehensive peace treaty that established new protocols for dispute resolution, resource sharing, and technological exchange. At its center was the newly formed Galactic Cooperation Initiative, with humanity serving as its founding member and mediator. As the signing ceremony concluded, the Sovan representative approached Reyes privately. "I must know," he said quietly. "Was it all true? The 5,000 defense platforms, the 700 ships?" Reyes smiled enigmatically. "Does it matter? The peace is real. That's what counts." 6 months later, the first human technological exchange centers opened across the galaxy. Teams of Earth scientists began working with their alien counterparts, teaching them the principles of dimensional energy tapping and non-destructive defense systems. Aboard the Tempest, now serving as an ambassador vessel on a tour of former conflict zones, Captain Rice stood in her ready room, gazing at the stars. A communication alert chimed softly. "Incoming transmission from Earth Command, Captain," reported the communications officer. Rice accepted the call. The face of Admiral Chen appeared on her screen. "Phase 3 completed successfully, Captain," Chen reported. "The transition is proceeding more smoothly than projected. 84% of former conflict zones are now observing the ceasefire." "And the holdouts?" Rice asked. "Coming around, now that they've seen the benefits of cooperation. The cracks have been surprisingly adaptive. They've already incorporated some of our basic energy technology into their agricultural systems." Rice nodded, satisfied. "And Project Harmony?" Chen smiled. "Ready whenever humanity is. The gateway technology has been tested and confirmed stable. New dimensions await exploration." "Good," Rice replied. "We've done what we came to do here. It's time to look beyond." As the Tempest continued its journey through once-contested space, the galaxy adjusted to its new reality. Humanity had arrived not as conquerors, but as guardians, technological shepherds guiding civilization toward a future where power came from cooperation rather than domination. The weapons of war were being transformed into tools of creation. The energy that once powered destruction now fueled exploration and growth. And throughout the stars, species that had fought for millennia learned a new way to exist together. The human way.